I have to declare that I'm aghast at the collective idiocy of the European Union Commission, which is simply doing as Washington is telling them, slapping, for instance, huge tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles and solar panels, for goodness sake. I mean, Europe is not producing its own solar panels. We need solar panels for our green transition. And we have the European Union Commission, which, because it is being ordered by Washington, D.C. to slap tariffs on solar panels coming from China, is following suit. Effectively, Europe is shooting itself in the foot on command from the United States of America. So that's something else you should be worried about. Given that the greatest lack, weakness, dearth in Europe is investment, there is not a single European country I know that doesn't need investment and wants Chinese investment. So go to European countries like Spain, for instance, you mentioned Spain before, and offer to build BYD cars there, or CATL battery, advanced batteries that Spain is not producing, Germany is not producing. There will be a backlash from Washington. Washington will go to Brussels and say, don't let the Chinese come in here and invest. You have to remember, in Brussels there are two international, transnational organizations. There is the European Union Commission and there is NATO, both in Brussels, next to one another. NATO had faded. The war in Ukraine has given it a new lease of life. And essentially, NATO has been making decisions that have been undermining and overbearing vis-à-vis the European Union. Ursula von der Leyen is the apotheosis of this takeover of the European Union by NATO. Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the Commission, even though she's German, she's working for the United States. She is a plant by the United States of America. I'm using a very harsh term, but let's be honest with one another. She's there on instructions of the United States. You can see that because the European Union has always been based on the Franco-German axis, on the axis between Germany and France. This axis, this nexus between France and Germany were always the skeleton on which the rest of the European Union was hanging. And yet, neither President Macron of France nor Chancellor Scholz of Germany were in favor of this rabid anti-Chinese line. This was purely the United States. And the United States has been pushing this anti-Chinese line initially through Eastern European countries that used to be part of the Soviet Empire and which are very anti-Russian and have always been closer to Washington than Brussels, even though they were members of the European Union. Countries like Poland, the Baltic states like Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, the Czech Republic. Brussels now has been subsumed into NATO as a result of the Ukrainian war. The Chancellor of Germany, Mr. Scholz, he was here recently trying to create a good working relationship with the Chinese, but not being led to do this by Brussels, by the European Commission, which is a complete no-brainer why it's happening. You have to see what's happening with electric vehicles. Because electric vehicles are the future, we know that. It is clear that they are the future. And it is a future which is highly problematic for Europe. Why? That's going many years before the Ukraine war, mishandled the Euro crisis. We ended up with 15 years of no investment. Take the German car industry, which was the dominant industry worldwide. It skipped an industrial revolution. Because going from the petrol or the diesel engine car to the electric vehicle, it's a bit like going from typewriters to personal computers. Being good at one thing doesn't mean you will be good at the other thing. Similarly, that's how harsh the distinction between conventional cars, traditional cars, and electric vehicles is. And Germany never made the investment into electric vehicles. They are producing a lot of them now, but most of that uses Chinese technology. So take Volkswagen, for instance. Does Volkswagen want these huge tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles? Our media say that they do, because that's how they protect themselves from Chinese competition. It's not true. I've spoken to people of Volkswagen. they have a shortage of engineers. They want their engineers to be trained in China. They are sending they are employing thousands of engineers here in China in order to improve their capacity to produce electric vehicles in Germany. They do not want, the people in Volkswagen do not want a trade war with China. If China reciprocates the tariffs against Chinese companies with tariffs on Mercedes-Benz is going to have a serious problem because of it will be losing a large chunk of its Chinese market. So the German Chancellor does not want these tariffs on electric vehicles. The Spanish government doesn't want it. The French government is neither here nor there. And yet the European Commission is pushing this line because it is in the pockets of the United States. This is a tragedy we have, and I say this with a great deal of pain in my heart as a European. This is a tragedy of Europe, that we are no longer in control of the policies that should be serving European interests. Europe is shooting itself in the foot.